So last month, I said that I saw a vision of the Statue of Liberty falling. Now, in the previous video for December predictions, I thought that that was going to be a metaphor because I didn't see anything happening in New York that would be horrible, indicating the Statue of Liberty falling. It turns out that it actually was a literal event that did take place in Brazil. The news article says 114-foot Statue of Liberty replica topples amid strong gusty winds and heavy storms in Rio Grande do Sul state, Brazil. I may have mispronounced that, I'm not sure. Along with the strong winds that I predicted last month, which toppled the statue, I also predicted last month that there would be strong ocean tides and mass flooding. Unfortunately, that happened as well. Some things that showed up in the news: following a powerful earthquake in Japan, a tsunami swept over the main island of Honshu. And I actually did mention the word tsunami last month for December. In Sri Lanka, a flood kills over 390 people. That's a lot of people for a flood to kill. Also, there was major flooding in Washington state, with rivers reaching historical high levels, forcing an entire city to evacuate. And those are some pretty intense videos of Washington State, if you happen to see that on the news. Also, I said last month there would be a nuke, or the word nuke would show up in the news. That would be important. I said specifically that it would not be related to a nuke being dropped, but it would be related to a country building nukes. Recently, in the news, there has been a lot of discussion around Iran building nukes again, despite the previous attacks on Iran that supposedly destroyed their capabilities of rebuilding. They are apparently rebuilding again. Another thing, before I get to new predictions, last month I did also predict Trump would be writing a letter to an international committee to explain his goals. Now, this was a little bit misinterpreted on my end. It turned out to not be an international committee that he was writing a letter to, like I thought, but instead it was him adding a segment to the Monroe Doctrine, which is part of the U.S. government, which is essentially establishing the U.S. to dominate this hemisphere of the world. So it is international in that sense, but it wasn't being written to an international committee, like I misinterpreted the information. This, if you haven't heard about it, it has been deemed the Trump corollary, if I said that right. The update to the Monroe Doctrine. So here we go into the psychic predictions for January 2026. If you like this video so far, give this video a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. Thank you very much. Today's date currently is actually technically December 27th because it's very late. It's actually 12:16. Just past midnight. So I'm doing this video very late, but I just wanted to get it done. So I will be going over world events happening in January of 2026. Just general world news, that is, as well as Bitcoin, stocks, silver price predictions. the energy of the month, and some general advice for this coming month. So the first thing that I saw for January was escalating war in the Middle East. And, this is kind of old news. Everybody knows about the war in the Middle East, but there's some sort of new escalation that I'm picking up on here for January. This seems to involve more than just Hamas, though, is what I was getting. It seems to be a little worrisome to Netanyahu. This is out of Donald Trump's control, but he will be talking about it in the context of war, which may be a little alarming to some people. I got the phrase ticking time bomb. And when I asked what that was about, I got that it was associated with Donald Trump, specifically with him directing his people or the people in the White House that kind of work with him to try and control the situation in the Middle East that is escalating through proxy, meaning that the U.S. is not directly engaging, but is kind of like in the way that Ukraine is kind of a proxy war for the U.S. against Russia. In the same way, the U.S. will be kind of using other countries shuffling around geopolitically, pulling the strings to kind of shift things around. I don't see that. Despite it coming across as a ticking time bomb, I think that's just kind of representing where Donald Trump is emotionally in this situation. Regardless, I don't see this taking effect as far as the U.S. influence kind of getting, so to speak, their tentacles out there and controlling things and kind of stopping the attacks against, or the threat against Israel. I don't really see that taking too much effect in January, despite this escalation in January. I did see tanks as if to indicate boots on the ground type of conflict, as opposed to a lot of just missiles exclusively. So we'll see how that plays out. Netanyahu of Israel is feeling tense about the situation, is what I was picking up on. And he doesn't seem happy about being stuck in this at all. This seems to be an indication that there is a rising conflict taking place in the Middle East involving cooperating groups that Netanyahu or Donald Trump aren't able to beat down despite their attempts and their hope, you could say. So, moving on to Ukraine. For January, I see Russia attacking Ukraine and taking more land, actually. I do not get the sense that there is a peace treaty in January, but as I said last month, this is the first time ever that I see Putin actually symbolically facing Trump and not turning his back to him, as that is different from what I've been saying for the past 2 years of this conflict, which is that I've been seeing Putin turn his back to Donald Trump. Even though they're working together in the news and whatnot, he wasn't really trying to reach a peace treaty, whereas now it seems like he's actually considering that more. Although later in the year, as I've said in my 2026 psychic prediction video for the whole year of 2026, I said that I do see Donald Trump being outsmarted by Putin. And go back and watch that video if you have not yet. This is just for January, of course. And for Venezuela, last month I said we would be seeing a building of tension without any major bangs happening yet in the month of December. So far, that's basically what we've seen. December is technically not over yet, but basically. January looks like the undercover operations that I discussed last month in the previous video will be continuing, and there may be some actual clashes starting to emerge in the ocean around Venezuela. I don't see any major attacks on Venezuela as far as on the land of Venezuela itself, besides for kind of secret covert operations that I previously discussed. I previously had said it would be about 2 to 3 months or so until the president of Venezuela is gone, and that would be around March of 2026. It looks like the US takes over most of the control, again, through proxy, not so much with direct control over the area, but in a way by working with other organizations and having the right people in the right places to kind of have influence over it. That's what I mean by proxy. But despite the US having that leverage, I do also see China seems to have some small level of grip on Venezuela as well. And I get the sense that this is coming through from Brazil somehow. And I don't think that this is literally Chinese military either going in there, but again, maybe more of a proxy thing where they have associations that know the right people, and their people are kind of helping them out, and it's like a big group effort, in other words. So there does seem to be something about China having some grasp on the situation. Although that's not necessarily for January, that's just something kind of in general that was showing up when I was tuning into what's happening in January. So moving on to Bitcoin, the stock market, and the price of silver. Previously, I predicted Bitcoin going up in January. Previously, last month, I said that I was seeing that happening. But now that we're getting closer to the start of January, I'm starting to see this timeline shift a little bit, which does happen. The future is not fully set in stone, especially when it comes to numbers and charts and things like that. But major events usually are kind of more baked into the future, so to speak. But everything potentially can shift. But anyways, what I'm starting to see is it looks like February is where Bitcoin will go up a little bit more so rather than it being in January. So I don't really expect anything too positive in January. Overall, I don't see any major gains anytime soon, but it does have a lot of volatility for January. Unfortunately, most of the volatility is to the downside. It looks like the price of Bitcoin could actually potentially go lower than 85K. Now, I've been saying it's going to hit 85K for months, for a very long time now. I don't know how many months. And it finally did recently. And now I'm seeing that it could actually go a little bit below that to 80K potentially. No promises, and this is not investment advice. Although it will be with a lot of volatility, so I don't think it's going to stay there. And it may actually hit around that level twice, is what I was getting. One more towards the beginning of the month and one more towards the end of the month. Just lots of volatility. So silver, the price of silver may slow down. It's been going up a good amount. It may slow down a little bit at first for January is what I'm sensing, but I see it continuing to do very well for the month overall, regardless, as well as long term. And you can learn more details about that if you want to join my Patreon, where I post about cryptos and Bitcoin and all that stuff. A couple months ago, I said the stock market in general would be going sideways with volatility. overall for the following 3 to 4 months or so, and we are still in that phase. It may be slightly to the downside in January, but overall, mostly sideways volatility still for January. This looks likely to continue, possibly for another 2 months or so, maybe. When I'll get there, I'll reanalyze that. This is a good month for focusing on finances, is what was coming through for me. It's a good month for thinking long term, especially slow and steady thoughts. Nothing too frantic, nothing too much like jumping into anything, but more so just steady, slow, long term thoughts. The energy of the month feels a little more forgiving than the previous months, and it's a great time to look ahead and think about the future. It's a good month for riding out the storm energy from the external world, just kind of like all the chaos, the tension around you, kind of just riding that out and focusing on you. And that seems to be what was coming through very strongly for January as good advice. As far as what's bad for the month of January, what came through was aimlessness or carelessness. The image I actually saw was a girl on a swing, like just kind of swinging carelessly, like that's not a negative thing by any means. That's a great thing, but to be in that mindset is not the best mindset to be in for January, because it's a little bit too much just kind of aimlessly floating around, even if it's joyful. Some months are good for that, but the energy of January it seems like it's a better month for actually buckling down and focusing on what you want in your life rather than doing that. I'm not saying that if you do that, you're doing anything wrong. It's just this is the way that it came through as what is good and what is bad for the month, energetically speaking, in a very generalized sense. So now is the time to make the subtle changes and ever so slightly steer the direction of your life with a little more precision. That was the advice for the month. And this one's a little shorter than usual, but I do have a few more things to say. Again, I have a 2026 year-long prediction. If you have not seen that, you can also go back and check any of my other previous monthly prediction videos to check my accuracy, or just see what I was talking about there. Everything I say kind of builds. The longer you watch, the more context you kind of get. But I have a class. I was going to start it January, coming up here very soon. But I've decided to move that class back to March 2026 because it's just so crazy right now. And I was reading the energy, and it seems as though March will be a better, more stable time to start a class. The class, of course, is a psychic development class for those looking to enhance their intuition through a specialized form of meditation taught at many psychic schools around, the U.S., maybe around the world too. But it's a specialized form of meditation labeled or called psychic meditation, generally speaking, although people may prefer to call it intuitive meditation sometimes, or running earth and cosmic energy is sometimes what it's referred to as well. But regardless, it's a form of meditation that allows you to tune more into your energy and start becoming more conscious on an energetic level, which then can lead you to doing readings, and literally that's the path that I started on, and that's how I got where I am, by doing that practice and technique. So that starts March 2026. Go ahead, check out the link below this video if you're interested in that. I also have an update on, I have a Subscribe Star account now, which is basically like Patreon. I used to have Ko-fi as the alternative payment because some people live in different areas where Patreon doesn't work for them financially. For whatever reason, it just doesn't work with their currency. Ko-fi generally covers those people, and so I switched to Subscribe Star instead of Ko-fi because Subscribe Star allows people to use the search bar and actually be able to find all the stuff on my Patreon or Subscribe Star account, because I have hundreds of readings on different people. It's basically an encyclopedia of important people, readings I've done on them, crypto coins, things of that nature. I also have a free 7-day trial for the Subscribe Star as well as the Patreon account, which are literally the same thing. You're not going to see anything different at either one. I just copy and paste the information. There's also a free membership for the Patreon page as well, and anyone can just join that for free updates. If you're wondering what I mean by the Psychic Encyclopedia of People of Interest, this is politicians, influential people, conspiracy theorists, people saying this or that or whatever it is. I do readings on them to get down to the truth of what is happening in reality. And I do this through a blind reading technique, meaning it's basically a remote viewing protocol for the most part, or I borrow an aspect of it at least, where I take a bunch of names, like hundreds of names, and I assign it a number, a 6-digit random code, and I scramble it, and it's all done through AI. So I am just presented with a 6-digit code number, and that's it. And I do a reading on that, not knowing what it's associated with until I finish the reading, and then I find out what name was associated with that random code. That way it is a blind reading, so I don't know who I'm reading until afterwards. That way it is a clean reading where my own thoughts and opinions are not able to as much influence my perspective on it. Also on my Patreon, recently in January, I have posted, well, besides for the hundreds of people that you can search for, I, in January, have posted 3 more people, that being Billy Meyer, who is an ET contact. He is, from what showed up, he is not exactly what he seems. Jenny Lee, who was a TV producer in question, someone was questioning her authenticity or something about her and asked if I do a reading. Gigi Young as well, a spiritual leader. Someone wanted to know about her. And she has some corrupt handlers, apparently. So you can find out about that on my Patreon. Again, free 7-day trial. I've also posted a whole bunch of stuff that is not under the blind reading protocol, but regardless, I still did reading on it, such as when the EU and Federal Reserve are replaced by something new that governs them both. Also, Mark Rubio and Donald Trump ET disclosure, where they really stand, which is a little more nuanced than what you may think. ET technology in general, elongated skulls, universal basic income, the next pandemic, and much more on my Patreon page for January. Also, it's a database of hundreds of blind readings on important people and hundreds of crypto coins and stock predictions. So, if you made it all the way to here, I appreciate that. Subscribe for monthly predictions for the month, every month before the month starts. Give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment for the algorithm. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and have a great day or night or whatever it is, wherever you are.